Big news. The big news over the last 24 hours in the rugby league world has been Ben Hunt, and we heard from Ryan Webb, the St George Illawarra CEO, on Triple M. Let's take a listen to the latest news.
This morning, officially, we got a request for a release from Ben.
So will you be granting Ben a release from the Dragons, Ryan?
No, we've got no intention of granting that release, and we've told his management exactly that. I spoke to Ben this morning. I gave him a call, and we've got a good relationship in that sense. So we spoke about it. A lot of it does come back to football. He's got a couple of years left, I guess, and he wants to be winning. He wants to see us getting better, and we're not right now. So ultimately, it comes back to that. He's working really hard. He's giving everything he can to the club, but he's not getting the returns, or we're not as a club. So that's probably where it all really sits. So the first part is you say, Ben, we're not going to release you. I think the second part is the onus is on us then to show him why he should be staying and convince him that things that are frustrating him or he can see fault in now, that you can turn those around. And I think there's some action that we take as a club, but also conversations with Shane, who's done it before. I think if you put those things together and you can get him back on board and show him how we're going to get some success, I think he can come back. And he's a professional. I think if he can see we're heading in the right direction, I don't think it'll be an issue.
Can you guarantee that Ben Hunt will be at your club next year?
Yes, I can. We've got a man who's contracted until the end of 2025. I've got a current coach and an incoming coach who very much see Ben Hunt as part of our successful football program. So those two things steer us in the direction that Ben Hunt will be with us.
Ryan Webb there saying that he can confirm that Ben Hunt will be there next year. I'm not so sure. We've been hearing this noise and news around Ben Hunt and possibly leaving the Dragons for a long time. We've covered it on NRL 360 for months now. We've heard the murmurs about the Bulldogs and his interest to go there, and then all of a sudden he has asked for an official release. How do we see this?
Hasn't Shane Flanagan spoken to Ben Hunt about the fact that he wants him to play halfback next year and the year after? So if the Dragons are thinking that they can convince Ben Hunt to go back on what he said this morning, if they've already played their trump card in Shane Flanagan and it hasn't worked, well, once you step over that line, Braith, of asking for a release publicly, once it's out in the public, you are on a... Can anyone think of players that have asked for a release and not been given it? Because you are on a track for release from the club you're at. Once you go public, which Ben Hunt has, I can't remember a player that has said, I want out of this club, and then ended up staying there. So unless they pull something pretty special, the Dragons, I can only see Ben Hunt continuing with his request as that he wants to leave.
So a player to leave, Braith, there needs to be two decisions. Both parties agree, correct? It can't just be one saying, I want to leave, and the Dragons are standing firm. On the other side, sounds like it's a football decision for Ben Hunt. Getting at the stage where in his career where he wants to win, wants to be more successful, get that ultimate premiership. And the fact that the Dragons, through Anthony Griffin leaving, misjudgment on Riles, bringing in Shane Flanagan, Shane Flanagan spoken to Ben, this is basically a statement from Ben Hunt saying, I don't believe you can give me what I need at this stage of my career. And it's going to be hard for them to get him, as the CEO said, to get him back on board. That is your captain, your halfback, your best player. To get him back on board and believe the football program is where it needs to be to win a comp, geez, that's hard to overcome.
Well, I think it gets to a head very quickly. Now that he's asked for a release, I think it comes to a head pretty quickly, because if they realise that they can't convince him to be part of their plans over the next couple of years, I think they cut ties and move on. I think if he stands his ground and says, no, I'm out, I want out, well, I don't think you can say, well, we're not going to give you a release. We know how it works. Yeah. There is negotiations going on behind closed doors, yes. And if he's steadfast in what he's saying and says, I want out, well, there's no point trying to keep him.
I think that's the point, Brent, is that this has been going on for obviously a long time out in the open, in the public, but behind closed doors, Ben would have been saying he wasn't happy with the setup there at the Dragons. He wasn't happy with what they've given him, obviously the lack of success there. This would have been an ongoing issue for a long period of time that has really come to a head now. And he's decided to, when you put a release out, and you said it, Brady, when you put an actual release out to the public to say, I want out, That means you're at the end.
You've crossed the line and you're on your way out of
What
the
else?
club.
What else more can they say? They've got a new coach. If anything, I thought Shane Flanagan coming on board. He's a premiership winning coach.
Yep.
It changes the systems. It changes the way in which they train and prepare, and he brings new players in. And you think, okay, well, this is a freshener. This is a new start. This is something that Ben Hunt has to look forward to. He told him he would play number 7. So, I mean, I can't see the optimism there from Webb. I just don't see it.
But you can't blame him.
No,
he's got to be optimistic. And if someone says, can you guarantee the Ben, you're going to say yes. You're going to say yes anyway. Even if you don't
can't
think
guarantee it.
Well, he can't.
But if you think Ben Hunt leaves your club, there's not exactly a replacement for Ben Hunt available. That's the issue for the Dragons. And Shane Flanagan has been out of this game coaching as a head coaching role for a while. He's not exactly going to want to go to there without Ben Hunt. So this story is going to blow up quickly, big time.
So, boys, much going on at the Dragons? Now, listen, I totally understand your predicament, and your club would be saying, don't want you talking too much about it, but Ben asking for a release. Talk is that he wants it immediately. Did you see this coming? All you blokes shocked by it?
Yeah, look, mate, it's obviously worked out to be a good timing for Blake and myself coming on here, but, I mean, he's kicking the feet up in Origin camp at the moment, the big fella, but, we probably didn't see it coming as of yet, but, I mean, obviously Benny's his own man, he's going to make his own decisions, but us as players, we'd obviously prefer Dozer to be with us, and he obviously makes our team a such better team, but ultimately it's going to be his decision, and I'm sure he'll make the right one.
Now, we're going to get some noise-cancelling headphones because we're just having a discussion here. But, boys, just entertain yourselves for a second, so to speak.
Your body language is screaming nervousness.
What do you say?
You can't say much. But no, do you text him? Like, what do you do? Like, back in the day...
We speak to him pretty regularly. We've got a pretty good relationship with him, and obviously I haven't annoyed him. Obviously in Origin camp he's got a pretty big game to prepare for on Wednesday night, and obviously we want New South Wales to win. But the club's come out and made a statement. Our CEO, Ryan Webb's made a statement, and there's not really much further to add on that. He'll be denied the release, and obviously Benny Hunt and Flano will talk going forward, and whatever happens will happen. But obviously he's our captain, and he's our leader, and obviously a bit selfish. I don't want him to go anywhere.
If he does decide to go, though, just think of the money he's freed up. Like, you can buy anyone.
Excellent.
You might put I'll tell you what, for the amount of money he's on, he still doesn't buy coffees, that's for sure.
You get an upgrade. You both get upgrades.
Now, boys, I'll direct these questions at these two Palookas here. Now, Fletch, Hindy, the bottom line is, if you've got a player on the sort of money Ben is on, and he wants to, I don't see any reason keeping a player who doesn't want to be there, even if he's contracted, if he's on that type of money.
Well, the first thing they've got to do with him is obviously sit him down face to face and get out of him what they want out. Like, what is it? Why is it the reason you don't want to be here? What is it? Is it board level? Is it teammates?
That's what I believe. It's been numerous things ongoing through the year.
Yeah. So and to your question, Matty, if he doesn't want to be there and he's on that much money, there's no point trying to, give him this, give him that to try and keep him to stay, because that's not going to change anything, I don't think. He seems to have made up his mind where, I need to change, I need to be out. The best thing to do, I think, now is once they've sat down with him and had a bit of a word to him, just go, we wish you all the best, here you go, and we'll rebuild
unless
from there.
there's an 100% about face. Flano goes and meets with him, but he's saying he doesn't want to go back there. The question will be, Fletch, if he does get the release, something's worked out, where's he going to go? I mean, there's the obvious one, the Bulldogs, but there's the Titans as well, and certainly another West Tigers will have a swing as well.
Well, you would think that he's already, or his management has spoken to someone, because he'd have a backup plan, or he might have been speaking to someone, for the last 3 or 4 months. Because the rumours were that he had a clause in his contract, and if Griffin was made redundant. But they've come out and said no. Look, I'm on the other sort of, I'm a bit torn. Like, he's been there for 5 years, he's been paying good money. I'm thinking maybe if they can work it out. Like, he owes the Dragons. That's what I'm thinking to myself.
No doubt.
But
he re-signed for another 2 years. He's been around when, haven't really, no offence, boys, but you haven't really, it was only the one time. That's why we had to... We had the headphones. I was going to rip into him. No, but I'm a little bit torn just thinking to myself, well, you know, he's been there, he re-signed for another 2 years. He sort of owes them a little bit. I know he's been terrific. He's been carrying you blokes for ages.
But do you remember that? If we
not you, Zach.
Season 1996. You know what happened with the St George Dragons?
Yeah, but look at that bloke.
I mean, Gordon Tallis.
Solid as a lemonade sandwich.
And they made Gordon sit out for a season.
Well, I think those days are gone, aren't they?
Yeah, well, that's right. If a player's on $1 million plus,
you
can't just say, well, we're going to sit you out for the whole season. It's just
I hope he stays. Honestly, I'm hoping he stays. Not just for your sake, but just, like, obviously he's either going to go there or the Chooks. I mean, we can't really...
Well, it's a fair point. It's a fair point you made.
Yeah.
Well, you could. Where would he play there?
Who knows?
9?
Yeah. Well,
what do you think, Matty? What are you thinking then? Are you thinking he's got a club already lined up?
You don't ask for a release unless you've got a fair idea where you're going to go. Or you've got a couple of irons
But
in the
he
fire.
knows he's going to get money
He's going to
wherever
get
he
picked
goes.
up somewhere.
Yeah, so I think there's
that.
going to be a number of clubs that are going to be wanting his services, particularly whether he can play, whether it's 7 or 9. Can
a number of clubs afford him? Is there clubs there who can afford to get rid of... They're going to have to move players on, whichever club it is, because their salary cap, they do it, like they forecast it. So he's just say he's $1 million player. There's not too many clubs that have $1 million in the
So the other thing about it is with the Dragons, I mean, it's double hurt because although you're freeing up that money, you know, playmakers of his quality are scarce on the ground.
Yeah.
So that's going to make it tough.